guys. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen? Okay. Let us start our discussion on a very special type of devices which are called negative resistance devices. So we will these are a family of devices, and we will learn about three different important members of this family one by one. The first one we'll talk about today is tunnel diode. We'll also talk about gun diode, and IMPAT and TRAPATS later. So let us just first overall define these devices that we are going to discuss, just like we defined field effect and tried to understand that what are the utilities and difference of these devices from the other things that we already know, like junction diode or transistors. So negative resistance devices are basically these special kind of electronic devices where you have a certain regime inside their IV characteristics. So we always draw the IV characteristics for these electronic devices once we have them. So these devices have a very special region where you have a negative differential resistance. So what is negative differential resistance? We know that Ohm's law says that V is equal to IR, and it directs us towards at least a piecewise linear curve dependency between I and V, and these are proportional to each other. So most of the time, the kind of devices that we have, they have an IV characteristics where, in general, if you increase the voltage, the current either increases or at most saturates. Most of the times we have a device like that, and almost never we have a device where you have a region where if you change the voltage, if you increase the voltage, then the current starts decreasing. Okay, so this special family of devices where you have a certain region, not the entire IV characteristics, but a certain region where you have this IV dependency that is basically negative dependency. So here I show two types of these negative resistance devices, two families, so to say. One family is called voltage control, another one is current control. But you can see the similarity between these characteristics, that they both look like an S, right? So this is an S rotated S kind of a thing, and this is also looks like a S, where you have a regime that has a negative proportionality region. So here between V1 and V2, if you note, the current basically decreases as the voltage increases. Similarly here between this region, if you change the current, then it goes the other way, right? So if the current is the variable and you control the device using the current, then we call them the current control device. And if it is like this, where you change voltage and you see a fall in current, you call it a voltage control device. So we'll discuss three different segments of this particular family, and the first member is tunnel diode. Okay, so tunnel diode is also called Esaki diode, and it is basically around 1960s it was made. And Leo Esaki, he was just a BTech pass out, and he was working in his PhD project when he actually discovered this, and he received Nobel Prize for that in 1973. So this is a path-breaking finding, and its physics that is inside it is also very, very deep. So let us try to understand that how this device works and what is the basic difference between this diode and the usual diodes that we have. So in general, so to say, that tunnel diode is nothing different from a PN junction diode. You have a P type and an N type, and they are fused together to form a PN junction. Okay, the main difference difference that we have is basically in the doping concentration. So this PN junction we are talking about is heavily doped. It is made by a P-type and an N-type. Both are heavily doped. And how heavily doped I'm talking about? So the impurity concentration, you know that it is usually 1 in 10 to the power 8 for normal doping level in normal PN junction. So for each 10 to the power 8 semiconductor ion atoms, you would dope 1 atom of impurity. So in compared to that, in case of tunnel diode, we have 1 in 10 to the power 3 impurity level. So that is a huge fraction. This is like, I mean, quite some value, and it is quite substantially more than what we have in normal PN junctions. So what could be the effect of this doping that comes into our mind is obviously the depletion region. By now we have discussed about depletion region formation and doping levels so many times while discussing FET. I guess the first thing that you understand is that depletion layer that we have here is going to be very, very thin, right? So as soon as you have a PN junction where the concentration of impurity is very high, then very soon the barrier potential will be high enough so that no current can further flow, and the depletion region will be quite thin. So that is the major difference that we have compared to the PN junctions, usual ordinary PN junctions compared to the tunnel diode. Okay, so their doping concentration is very high and the depletion level is very small. That's it. That is the construction, as simple as that. So how does this device, just dependent on higher level of doping, gives an IV characteristics which is completely different than what we have in case of ordinary diodes? Let us just try to understand that how that happens. So some basic things that we just mentioned here about tunnel diode. It is generally made using germanium or gallium arsenide, while the ordinary diodes are usually made by silicons, you know. So and the circuit symbol of tunnel diode is something like this. Okay, so you have the circuit symbol of tunnel diode looks like this, where you have these small bars on both sides to point out the device, to distinguish the device from ordinary diodes. So let us talk about the working. Okay, so what is the difference in working of normal junction diodes and tunnel diodes? So for that, we need to have the basic understanding of band structure, which I guess you already have learned. Sir has discussed about conduction bands, valence band, Fermi level, and how that shifts as you go on doping a semiconductor material. So we will start from that point to understand how the working becomes quite different as you go on increasing the doping concentration in case of tunnel diodes. So here what I have is an ordinary PN junction diode, and let us just stop here for a moment and just understand what we have drawn here. It is basically the band diagram of PN junction that we have here. So you know that in P-type semiconductors, this side is P-type. Okay, so where this side is P-type, where you have you know that in normal ordinary diodes, if you have a P-type semiconductor and you start doping it, that means the Fermi level, which in undoped semiconductor lies just below the valence band and conduction band, starts shifting down, right? It starts shifting down, and in case of P-type semiconductor, it lies very close to the top of the valence band, right? Similarly, on the other side of N-type semiconductors, we have these Fermi levels, which was somewhere here, just in the middle of valence band and conduction band. It starts shifting upward as I go on increasing the doping level, and it lies very close to the bottom of the conduction band. So this is how the Fermi level changes its position as you go on doping, and you know the physics behind it from your discussions in the other class. So what happens if I make a PN junction? So as soon as I make a PN junction, but I don't add any batteries, the entire system is at equilibrium, right? So depletion region gets formed, and if I have an equilibrium system, then the Fermi level must be same for both the sides. Okay, so the Fermi level starting from one side goes to the other side uninterrupted, unbroken. It is continuously continuous from one side to the other. Okay, and what does that mean? That means we have the step-like band structure, where the bottom of the conduction band in the N-type side and the bottom of the conduction band in the P-type side are not in the same level. The only thing that is in the same level is basically the Fermi level. Okay, so this is the band diagram, and this is how it looks when I just fuse a p-n junction and I have not added a battery yet. Okay, now what happens? The doping in this system, say 1,000 times. That's just what we do in case of tunnel diodes. So what happens if I increase the doping level 1,000 times in this particular system? So just think about the p-type side and tell me that if you go on doping further and further into this in this p-type semiconductor that we have, where the Fermi level is already quite close to the valence band, what do you expect will happen to the Fermi level if you go on doping much more higher levels? Do you have any idea about that? Yes.
Fermi level would coincide with the valence band.
It will coincide with the top of the valence band, and then it actually enters the valence band. Okay, so let us talk about that. So what happens is, if you go on increasing the doping level, the Fermi level goes, you make very high level of doping, then this happens, then only this happens. There is a special name for this kind of semiconductors. We call them degenerate semiconductors. So what happens is, when you go on with a very high level of doping, the Fermi level goes inside the valence band for p-type semiconductors, and it goes inside the conduction band in case of n-type semiconductors. Okay, it depends on the level of doping. So these are called degenerate semiconductors. Here the dopant atoms now starts interacting with each other. So I guess you know that how the band forms in solids. So and you know that the atoms inside start interacting with each other, and from there the band structure comes out, right? So in this case, the doping level is so high that now the dopants are also interacting with each other, and from there this effect comes. So what happens is, in case of n-type and p-type both, the Fermi level goes inside the bands now. Okay, so this is the key. This is the key of understanding how this device works. Now, just keep this in mind, and let us just try to understand that how the current flows in case of normal diodes, and what can differ here if I have a very high level of doping in tunnel diode. So in normal diodes, say this is a normal diode. Okay, you have a depletion region, and the depletion region is somehow a little bit wide. Okay, and now I have added biasing. So I have added a positive bias. P-type side is connected to the positive side of the battery, and the N-type side is connected with the negative side of the battery. So the carriers will get attracted and they will start flowing. So that is what we already know, right? Now let us understand this picture in terms of the band diagram. So what happens in case of the band diagram? Now you have a battery attached to the system. That means you are applying a force, right? So a battery is a voltage, and that is basically an attractive force or for both the carriers, holes and electrons on either side of the junction. So this force basically pulls these electrons to cross over this hill that we have, this potential hill that we have. So here you know that we have positive and negative ions sitting, right? So positive and negative ions are sitting inside the depletion region. That means we have a potential, right? A potential difference. So this potential difference is my barrier potential. So this barrier potential needs to be overcome so that the electrons can flow. So we help those electrons to cross this barrier with the help of the battery that we add, right? So we add a battery in the circuit so that the electrons can gather enough energy. The right term would be to say that they gather enough energy so that they can cross over this hill. So this, though it looks like a slope, but for holes, this is also a hill, right? So you attract these holes and help them to cross over this barrier and reach on the other side. So this is how an ordinary p-n junction works. So if you think of this diagram in terms of a barrier and some carriers sitting next to it, so let us consider that this, what we have, is basically the width of my depletion region. Okay, this is the width of my depletion region. So width of this length that I have here is basically specified by this barrier that we have. This is the potential barrier that has been created because of the presence of those positive and negative ions, and the electrons were this in this side of the barrier. Okay, and if you want them to cross over this landscape, to do is you need to apply or shake this entire landscape vigorously, right? You have to shake this landscape with quite high energy so that they can jump over this barrier, they can jump across the barrier and they can reach on the other side. So if you shake it really loosely, then it cannot happen. So you have to supply enough energy to these balls, to these electrons, to cross over the barrier that we have. So this is how the ordinary p-n junction works. That is why we have the concept of cut-in voltage, that for some small value of positive bias, forward bias, the current does not flow, because then at that moment this energy, that with that you are shaking this entire landscape. Just imagine you are shaking a box of balls and you are trying to throw a few balls out of that box. So you need to shake it quite vigorously with enough energy so that they can go out. So this is how a normal junction diode works. Okay, and this is what should happen in all classical scenarios. This is what should happen. So if the energy of the electrons are greater than the barrier height, then only the current can flow. So this is normal scenario. This is classically, this is what we understand quite clearly, right? If the energy of electrons are greater than the barrier, then they can cross over. But what we see in tunnel diode is basically a quantum mechanical phenomenon, and that is like the previous case. If you imagine the previous case, like throwing a ball over a wall, this is like shooting a bullet through the wall. Okay, so what quantum mechanics says, the basic principle of quantum mechanics, whatever you have learned in your first sem, is basically this, right? That you understand there is a wave particle duality, and every particle can be thought as a wave, right? So just think of it that I am sitting in one room and you are sitting in the room next to it, and if I have a particle in my hand, if I have a ball in my hand, and I want you to see it, you cannot see it, right? If I throw the ball, that cannot reach you because I have the wall sitting in between. But if this ball is now, you can imagine that ball as a wave, and now suppose a sound wave is coming out of that ball, there is a certain, the wall is quite thin, and if the sound energy is quite large, then you can hear that sound, whatever is coming out of that ball, right? So is this picture clear? What I am trying to convey, that if you have a quantum mechanical picture where a particle can be identified with a wave, there is a certain probability that though the barrier is quite high for the ball to cross, there is a certain probability that the ball could be on the other side of the ball because it's a wave. Okay, so is this idea at least vaguely clear? So this phenomena that we are talking about here is basically called tunneling, quantum mechanical tunneling, where because of this wave property of quantum mechanical particles, electrons are small and they are highly energetic, they are quantum mechanical particles, they can cross a barrier with some probability if the barrier is quite thin and the energy is quite large. Okay, so this is the phenomena of tunneling, and this diode that we have basically works in this principle. Okay, so that is why it's called a tunnel diode. So let us see that how this happens. So step by step, let us try to draw the IV characteristics of this device. So I will request you to have a pen and paper with you and try to draw step by step as the voltage changes, how the current changes. Okay. So here I have a picture of band diagram of this tunnel diode with zero bias. Now there is no battery attached to it. So the valence band is this pink level, and because of the high doping, this is the Fermi level. The dashed line is the Fermi level. Okay. Similarly, this is the green one is the conduction band, and this is the Fermi level on the n-type side. So this is my Fermi level. Okay. Now there is no biasing there. That is why the Fermi level on both sides is basically at the same level. Okay. The Fermi level on both sides is basically at the same level. Okay. And there is no possibility of any current flowing at this point. We cannot see that how a current can flow. So there is no possibility of current flowing. But we observed something important is that this portion and that portion, okay, here between the bottom of the valence band and E Fermi and top of the bottom of the conduction band and E Fermi, we have electrons and holes sitting, okay, and they are quite close to each other. The potential barrier that we have here, if this barrier is very thin, which is true because we have a tunnel diode and the depletion region is quite thin, then there is a certain probability that these carriers that we have can cross this barrier through tunneling. So that is what happens in case of small biases. As soon as I apply a small positive bias, as soon as I apply that, then what happens is the Fermi level breaks, right? Fermi level is not same on both sides anymore. Fermi level goes up in case of n-type and goes down in case of p-type. And now you can just imagine two trains passing each other where two windows are just facing each other continuously as you go on changing the voltage. Okay, so these electrons now can see these holes, and you have a very thin barrier potential sitting in between, and the energy is quite high. So the electrons just tunnel through and come to the other side. Okay, so a small current starts flowing immediately as soon as you increase the voltage. This does not happen in case of regular diodes. In case of regular diodes, we know that for first small values of voltage, we don't have any current flow. Okay, so but here, as soon as this window that we have, this window between conduction band bottom and E Fermi and valence band top and E Fermi, okay, these two, they can see each other, they can face each other. It encourages tunneling, and the carriers just break through this barrier. They just pass through, tunnel through this barrier and go to the other side. Okay, so these are the empty states, and these are electrons. So they are very, very interested to go and have acquired those empty states, right? So as soon as they can see each other, they just tunnel through the small barrier present in between, and a small tunnel current starts flowing into the device. So a linear current starts increasing. Now, in the next step, we have a slightly higher voltage, That means that this Fermi level goes further up, this Fermi level goes further down, right? This barrier gets smaller and smaller, and that means more of these electrons can see more of these holes. So this is kind of the maximum alignment, so to say. You can check out that in the previous case, the portion that was overlapping in the both sides, if I just extend this on this side, so this much portion was visible for these two regions, right? As you go on increasing the potential, the region that is visible for these holes and these electrons, that continuously gets increased, and at one point it reaches a maximum. So just imagine, that is the simplest example. Just imagine that two trains are passing side by side from in the opposite directions, and two windows which gets aligned for a very particular moment of time. So in that moment of time, when they are perfectly aligned, there is a maximum see-through. And then just before that and just after that, the amount of overlap is really small. Okay, it goes on decreasing on both sides. So that is something like that is happening. So this is the moment, this is the value of the voltage where both these portions on either sides of this barrier are seeing through the complete states available on the other side. For electrons, they can see all the states, vacant states sitting opposite to this small thin barrier, and this is where maximum tunneling occurs. So at one point we reach a maximum tunneling current, and after that again the overlapping starts decreasing, right? So as soon as you go on increasing the potential further, it moves further up and it moves further down, and now again you can see that the overlapped portion again starts reducing. So now only this much is available, this much can be seen from one side and the other. Okay, so only these many tunneling can occur. So at this point the current starts decreasing, because the maximum tunneling occurred when the maximum overlap or see-through happens between these two regions. So as soon as this perfect alignment is gone, you start having some misalignment, and then you see the tunnel current starts reducing. Now this tunnel current should basically fall and fall to zero. Okay, because the alignment goes out of sync as soon as you go on increasing the voltage. So if you increase the voltage further, this tunnel current is supposed to decrease. But meanwhile, the applied voltage is enough so that the actual forward biasing starts, and now the electrons can cross the barrier just like the ordinary PN junctions. So for higher voltages, at one point there is a turn, and in this turn basically occurs because of the ordinary PN junction current, that is the passing over through barriers. So this current starts after a certain voltage value and then starts increasing gradually, and then catches up at the point where the tunnel current was reducing. So tunnel current was reducing like this. Okay, tunnel current was reducing like this, and the PN junction ordinary current was increasing like that. They meet at one point, and from there the current starts increasing again. So thus you get a curve, a characteristics curve that looks like this. Okay, so at each and every point I just tried to explain from origin to this linear increase due to tunneling current reaching the maximum tunneling current, then reduction of tunnel current because of misalignment, and then further reduction of tunnel current and meeting the ordinary junction current, PN junction current, which increases further, which the total effect contributes to a negative resistance region between these two voltage values, where the current decreases as the voltage increases. Okay, so let us just quickly define some terms here. So this is the peak current where you have the maximum tunnel current. Okay, so this is called peak current or maximum tunnel current, IP. Okay, this is called IP, peak current. This is called valley current. That is the point where the current turns and starts increasing again. This is called valley current. Okay. Similarly, this is called peak voltage, the value at which this peak occurs. This is called valley voltage. Okay. And then you have a peak forward voltage. Okay. So where this value is reached again, when it is increasing, the same current, same maximum peak current is reached for a higher value of forward bias. So this is the total characteristics of tunnel diode, and this is how a tunnel diode works. Okay, so on a comparative view, if we try to understand in terms of numbers, then immediately after you start increasing the forward bias, the current starts increasing, and it goes up to a value of almost 2 milliamperes. Okay, this is the peak value, IP, that we are talking about. It's 2 milliamperes, and it occurs at quite a low value of voltage, around 50 millivolts. Then it starts reducing and comes down to almost 0.2 milliamps, which is 300 millivolts. 300 millivolts means 0.3 volts, which is basically the cut-in voltage for germanium. And from this point onwards, germanium's ordinary current catches up and it starts increasing because the cutting voltage has been crossed. So this is the reason why germanium is preferred as a material for construction of tunnel diodes. Okay. So this is more or less the construction and the working principle of tunnel diodes. I will stop at this point, and if you have any question or any doubt in understanding, please ask away and try to just think about the different differences that you can point out between ordinary PN junction diode and tunnel diode in terms of structure, in terms of operating principle, in terms of IV characteristics, and think about some applications of this device as well. Okay, so I will stop at this point and you can ask questions if you have any. No questions?